If you're always on the go and struggle to find time for yourself, you'll relate to Maria's experience. Maria at 50 was constantly busy with work and family, and fitting in long workouts just wasn't realistic. When she found the Pursue Your Spark Blueprint, it showed her how to incorporate movement into her day without feeling overwhelmed. She started sneaking in short Pilates sessions and stretches whenever she could. These small changes made a huge impact, and now she's more active than she's been in years without sacrificing time with her family. If you're like Maria and need simple ways to stay active, the blueprint might be exactly what you're looking for. Check it out with the link in the show notes. Have you ever felt like you're caught in that cycle of wanting to make a change, but somehow it never quite sticks? Maybe you're searching for that spark, that extra push to finally put yourself first and see actual results. But what if it's not about wanting at all, but actually committing? Today, we're diving into this big mindset shift with Allan Misner, a fitness and nutrition coach for people over 50 who has been right there where you might be. He knows what it takes to turn the desire for change into real, lasting action. Together, we explore his story, the lessons he's picked up along the way, and some surprising truths about motivation that just might flip your whole approach on its head. This is the Pursue Your Spark podcast, and I am Heike Yates. If you're feeling stuck in midlife, wondering, how did I get here? You're in the right place. We're all about real transformation, not quick fixes. My mission is to help you break free from limiting beliefs and outdated habits using fitness and wellness as tools for change. Each episode offers practical strategies for turning complex challenges into simple, actionable steps. So bring your yes, I can attitude and earbuds, and let's explore how you can truly thrive in midlife. Do you ever feel like you're on the edge of making a real change, but something keeps holding you back? You want it so badly, but commitment somehow slips through your fingers. What's really going on there? In today's episode, we're digging into this topic with Allan Misner, an NASM-certified personal trainer, precision nutrition, level 2 master health coach, and FAI-certified functional aging specialist, a coach who's been exactly where you might be stuck and figured out how to bridge that gap between wanting change and actually committing to it. He's here to share how to tap into true motivation for commitment, putting yourself first, and finally making those goals stick. Welcome to the show, Allan.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Super. We're diving right in, and I want to know a time or times when you ignited your spark, when you had to recommit to your goals or commit to your health goals.
Well, I had made a decision that I was going to get myself back in shape because I was in really bad shape in my late 30s. And so I'd made the decision I was going to do something. And then for around 8 years, I worked at it. The gain, the loss, the try, the fail, the back and forth over and over, and literally found myself like 8 years later, like worse off than I started. And the spark actually came from my daughter. And we were on a phone call. She had just gotten into CrossFit. So she'd become a level 1 CrossFit coach. She was loving it. She had finally found her place, what she wanted to do with herself. And so she was just so excited. And she reminded me a lot of when I was her age. It's like, okay, I would have been doing these same things when I was her age, for sure. And so she called me up and we were talking. I was in Malaysia and she was in the States, and she said, "Daddy, would you come watch me do a CrossFit competition?" And it was like she kicked me in the gut. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't sign on to be a dad, to be a spectator in my daughter's life. I signed on to be a participant. But I obviously wasn't in a position where I could go do a CrossFit competition with her. But that's where I thought I was supposed to be. I was not supposed to be a spectator. Now, I'm a good dad. I did go watch. But that's not what I wanted to be doing with my daughter. That's not the experience that I wanted and not the life that I wanted. So it was at that moment I sat down and I said, okay, this is a hard thing. I mean, I know fixing yourself, losing weight, getting stronger, getting fit when you're over 40 is hard. But what makes this any harder than any of the other really hard things I've done during my life? Because I've had a lot of successes and I've worked really hard and done a lot of things. I was like, okay, what makes this harder? And it was that moment that I realized it isn't. What was different, and you used the word earlier, was I had never really committed to making the changes that were necessary to make that happen. Any other time I'd wanted to do something really hard, I had committed. And when I commit to something, I'm a bit fanatical, obsessive. That's the thing. That's the goal. That's the mission. Get it done no matter what. And I had never really done that here. And so I started kind of figuring out, okay, I've got to hire somebody, figure something out, get somebody involved here. But I started looking around and there was no one. There was no one training people over 40. There was, you either do the CrossFit stuff, all that stuff, or bodybuilding, or you come over here and everything they had for anyone over that age was chair yoga and stretching. And I was like, there's nobody talking about this gap, this period of time when, you still have a life ahead of you. And you should be able to get in shape. You should be able to lose the weight. And you should be able to restart. No one was talking about it. And so I said, well, I can't hire a coach. I'm traveling too much. I'll look for an online coach. There were no online coaches. This was in 2013.
Okay.
I'm like, that's kind of crazy. There were coaches for bodybuilding. So if you're working on your posing for bodybuilding, there were coaches that would sit there and watch video and give you pointers. If you were working on your nutrition for bodybuilding at the very end, the cutting and all the stuff, there were coaches doing that. And there were some powerlifting coaches. That's all I was able to find in all the world. So I was like, okay, nobody's here to help me do this. There were no podcasts. There were no books. There were no coaches. So I said, only thing I could think to do was, become one. So I went ahead and got most of the certifications that you talked about earlier. Those were a function of figuring out what I needed to do for myself. And so I became a personal trainer to train Allan. And
Nice.
That's all the intention I had. That's all the intention I had. Now,
absolutely. And I think that's when we're aging, that's what it's all about. And you mentioned what CrossFit is about. I used to be a bodybuilder. And not the posing competition, but the really put on size competition. And there was nothing functional about that. There was all about aesthetics, getting as big as you humanly possibly can, throw in some poses and pack on more meat basically on your body.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing that would help me age well into my 80s and 90s.
So I didn't want to just do the Tough Mudder. I wanted to do the race with my daughter. I wanted to enjoy it and not kill myself to get this thing done. So the fitness level that I felt I needed to get to was a little bit further over the edge of what most people in their mid 40s would have or need at that time. Now, here's what I know. I'm fairly certain is true. If I had not had that moment where I made that commitment, I would have not gotten those last two things. I don't know that I still would have been alive when she got married.
Which brings us full circle to the commitment. Why it is so difficult for people to commit. We all want, and we both are fitness coaches. And we both hear it all the time. I just can't do it. I want to. What's your take on that?
Well, there's, when I wrote my book, The Wellness Roadmap, I said, okay, weight loss is 50% nutrition, 20% stress management, 20% sleep, and 10% fitness. You're not going to exercise the weight off. You're just not going to do it if you're over 40. I've come to a new conclusion about this pie chart. Those four things are just 10% of the pie chart. What's going on in your head, your mindset, and the way you look at motivation are 90% of it. So if your head's not straight, it's not going to happen. It's just not. You won't be able to stick to the nutrition plan that you have. You won't be able to stick to the fitness plan. You're not going to really do much to improve your sleep or manage your stress unless you get yourself wired right. And we skip that step. And we start throwing the tactics and strategies at it, like what diet works? What's the best exercise to lose belly fat? How can I get strong fast? How can I do this and make it easy? And so we're not really in the game mentally. And so when things get hard, we check out.
But isn't it not? I don't think, I disagree a little bit with this. When things get hard, I think a lot of people don't even get to that part of it's hard. They're not sure what they should commit to. They see so much on social media that what they should be doing and that what they should look like, that they don't really know themselves and they don't really know to prioritize themselves. And what would that look like? What would that even look like to commit to something? If I put Allan in the driver's seat, he's going to give me a program. We all do that. And you just tap on it, but nothing happens other than them getting frustrated. What do you think?
To an extent, yes. And particularly a certain style of person. Like I said, I have mindsets. For me, the mindset I had was the big, scary goal. Okay. I now call that an atlas person, and not the atlas of the god carrying the planet, but the actual paper atlases we used to have, the felt pen, drawing the route.
Yes.
An atlas needs to know the destination. They need something in front of them that they're charging toward. That was my mindset at that point. But one of the first mindsets I had to get through was kind of what you're talking about there. One of the things you're talking about there was, okay, I had to realize I had put everybody else's obligations in front of my own. I was a co-pilot and I had to take care of everybody else. And then there was no energy left for me. So that's another one. Another one is tires, and tires need traction. So, if you're going and you lose traction, you slide back down the hill and you're in the ditch. And that's a tires person. If they don't see traction, they quit. And so they're the ones that, like the little circles on your phone or marking on a calendar every time you do your workouts or keeping a journal. They do very well with that. Another one is what I call windshield. And this was a big one for me. I remember being like my daughter. I remember being super uber fit. And so every time I tried to do something, I'm looking in the rearview mirror thinking that's what I should be. That's what I should do. And that never really worked out very well for me. So
the shoulds.
Yeah, someone who's a windshield person needs to realize you're sitting right here in this seat and the windshield's right here in front of you. And if you spend your time looking through the rearview mirror, you're not going anywhere.
Right.
Okay. So you have to look forward. And that works for someone who was super fit before. It also works for someone who maybe was not so fit when they were younger. They still think of themselves as a fat kid, And so they have this mindset of who they were, which is keeping them from getting where they should be. So as soon as they can just turn their head and say, this is the seat, this is where I am right now, that's my windshield, go this way. But the main one in which you would like talked about a minute ago was what I call pedals person. So a pedals person is someone who will start with something. They'll say, okay, this diet looks interesting, or this exercise program looks interesting, and they'll press the gas. And 2 weeks later, they haven't seen the change they wanted. I expected to lose 20 pounds this month. I haven't lost any. It's already 2 weeks. So they press the brake and they look for something else. And then they go do that. So that's a problem with too much information for them, is there's so many different ways to eat. There's so many different exercise programs. There's so many different gurus saying this or saying that. And some of it's even counteracting each other. It's like, well, should I be eating saturated fat or not? Should I be eating sugar or carbohydrates or not? And so they're just really confused. They start something, but they don't stick with it long enough to really see anything really happen, and they quit. And so that the person that's setting the pedals, if they would just sit there and say, okay, I'm going to try the Mediterranean diet. It sounds reasonable. There's some evidence that it's the best diet. I'm going to do it, but I'm not just going to sit there and say, I'm going to just start it. I'm going to do it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and see what it does. If you give it the time and it's a reasonable thing, it's probably going to work for you. But more than anything with all of these is really sitting back and saying, what will work for me? Because I couldn't be a vegan. I just could not.
Like meat.
I also cannot just be a carnivore because I also like vegetables and fruit. And so if I try to do something super, super restrictive, I know I won't be able to do it forever. And so people say, I'm going to do this thing. And they do. And they lose the weight or most of it. And then they say, well, now I can go back to eating normal instead of making that the new normal. Okay. And so, they'll do things. And so the reality is we got to get our head right. What does our head tell us? Well, it tells us when things are, scary, and it actually wants us to conserve energy. It doesn't want us to do workouts. We're very lazy animals for a good reason. We need that energy. And when food was scarce, you're not out just running around dancing, jumping around, doing silly things as much unless you have a good quantity of food. And so we have to get our head straight before we move forward. So the five mindsets that I just kind of went over, Atlas, tires, windshield, pedals, and Copilot. I have a quiz on my website. You can go to 40plusfitness.com/quiz, and you can take the quiz and it'll tell you what your primary type was.
If you ever found yourself mindlessly snacking throughout the day and it's starting to become a habit, then Anne's story will resonate with you. Anne at 58 was snacking constantly without even realizing it. She wanted to make a change, but didn't want to go on another restrictive diet. That's when she found the Pursue Your Spark Blueprint. The course helped her become more aware of her habits, and with a combination of mindfulness and intermittent fasting, she could take control of her eating. Now she feels more energized and in control of her health. If you've been struggling with mindless snacking like Anne, check out the blueprint and see how it can help you regain control. I'll leave a link in the show notes so you can check it out. I think it's really important to know because some people really don't know what they are. And I like the example of I'm starting a diet, I do it 2 weeks, and I didn't lose the 20 pounds that I thought I was going to lose. So what's the problem? And most people say, I'm the problem. It's me. Or this program is just not for me. But they had even given it a real good try.
Yeah. So what I found was when I look back at my journey, I didn't know this when I was doing this. I got very, very lucky in that I didn't realize I was a Copilot person, and my work was everything. It was taking everything I had, all my energy. And so I wasn't applying any energy to myself. So the commitment allowed me to overcome that and say, I need to ask for permission to do my workouts when I want to do my workouts. I need to make sure that I'm making time to do the things I need to do to take care of myself. And that was contrary to me feeling like I had to do everything for the job first. So I just stepped past that. Once I did, I was in good shape. But then I found out, okay, now I'm a windshield person, meaning I'm trying to do, this workout that, yes, I could do that when I was 29. I can't do it when I'm 46. And so re-gauging myself and saying, okay, windshield right there, seat right here. Okay, go. And getting myself back into that. The next one I ran into was tires, because I would do a workout for a few days, and then Friday would come along. I'd go out with friends, have a few beers, and then the whole weekend was shot. Okay. And sometimes I didn't even go back on Monday. It's like, I'll catch up next Monday. And so that was my tires thing. Once I had all of those kind of lined up, which happened relatively quickly for me, then it was like, okay, I'm going to do this Tough Mudder with my daughter. I know that's going to drive me. And that was the Atlas that came out. So for the most part right now, I'm an Atlas, but every once in a while, I find myself doing a tires thing.
But isn't that, Allan, isn't that something that is normal, which I relate to motivation? And we want to talk a little bit about motivation and what it is and what it's really not. That you just slide back and that's okay. You are the windshield wiper for a while and that's okay. But what are your thoughts around motivation?
Okay. I personally think that we do motivation wrong. Okay. Because you'll hear people use words like, you'll hear them say words like willpower. I have no willpower. We make a resolution and we fail 3 weeks in. It's like, well, okay, 92% of people fail. So I'm sort of normal. Okay, that's normal. You'll have someone who's actually in good shape just saying, you just need discipline. You just need discipline. Well, the word discipline actually means punish. Okay. You don't need punishment. Okay. I can just tell you right now, you don't need punishment. So we've got a new paradigm I want you to think about. With motivation. Motivation isn't something that just shows up. It's not a magic force. It's either there or not there. You get motivation by doing something first. You have to earn motivation. That might sound a little paradoxical. Yes.
Explain.
Okay. So here's the thing.
Give an example.
There are two styles, if you will, types of motivation. There's the outside or extrinsic version, external, that's called accountability. Okay. And then there's the internal or intrinsic that's called self-efficacy. Okay. Now, the easiest way to do this is the accountability because there's two layers in this model as well. There's leader level and then there's social level. So accountability at a leader level is hiring a coach, having a manager. When you're at your job and there's a manager and he says, I want this report by Thursday night. Guess what you have by Thursday night? The report, because you have the accountability of a leader telling you this is what you need to do. Coach is a very similar thing. Coach says, okay, here's you've agreed to these goals for your eating. You've agreed to these goals for your movement. I expect you to do them. And then you do them because you have that accountability at the leader level. That's very easy to get. You hire the coach. So this is really quick, easy there. Okay. The next layer is a social layer. And this is where like you join a run club or you go to a spin class or even a CrossFit box, you do the things with those people and you begin to think of them as they're your peers. A lot of people think peer pressure is a bad thing. Well, only a bad thing if you have bad peers.
Right.
If
Absolutely.
you have good peers around you, peer pressure is a great thing because you're showing up for your workouts. You're showing up for the stuff. You're joining groups and you're now living their lifestyle. You now are associated with better people. Like the Jim Rohn quote, you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with. That's the concept. But they're holding you accountable. They're the 5 o'clock CrossFit group. They show up at 5 o'clock. You show up at 5 o'clock. It's what you do. Okay. That accountability is pretty easy because you either hire the coach or you join the group or both. Better. Both. So you have the accountability. Now, the only problem with accountability is that it's fleeting. Meaning it could go away. You get through with your sessions with your coach and you don't want to pay him anymore. Accountability's gone. Okay. The group starts to move around, move away. You said, okay, I'm gonna go for a walk with my sister every afternoon after work. And then your sister twists her ankle or something comes up and she's not coming. And I don't know how many times I've had someone, well, I couldn't walk. I'm like, well, okay, why couldn't you walk? Well, my sister didn't go. Like, but you're okay. It's like, yeah, my sister twists her ankle, but your ankle's just fine. Well, yeah, again, the accountability was gone. Poof. Okay. So the self-efficacy is harder, but it's more powerful. So at the leader level is you, and it's you being the CEO of your own health. It's you making management decisions. Now, inside a business, what managers do is they set up processes so it's easier to succeed and harder to fail. So they remove friction from the things you want to do and they add friction to the things you shouldn't be doing. And so if you're the leader of your own health, you start doing those things. So an example I can give you is I would show up for my workouts. Like I wanted to work out during the day and I lived a good ways away from work. So the gym was right next to my office. And so I would get my bag out to change and I'd realize I forgot something. Sometimes it was a t-shirt, sometimes it was the shorts, maybe the socks. Not a big problem. I mean, so I wouldn't do the workout. One day it was one shoe.
Oh God.
I don't even know. Again, to this day, have no idea how only one shoe ended up in my bag, but the other shoe did not. But I realized that I was self-sabotaging at some level. That I didn't know how or why, but for some reason that was happening, and I was not doing the workouts as a result. So I said, okay, what do I need to do? Well, process. I have a checklist. I printed it all out and I laminated it. And now when I sit down, when I brush my teeth each evening, I pull out the list from top to bottom. Everything goes in there. The list goes in there. I put my gym bag right by the door, so I would have to literally step over it on my way out. Okay. I never missed another workout because I reduced the friction of doing my workouts.
When you, I don't know if you read Tom Cleary's the Atomic Habits. He talks about this too, how to remove the friction and what to do in order to be successful, whether it's fitness, nutrition, or your everyday life.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said, pack your bag the day before, have that list, put it all in. You're ready to go. No excuses.
Yeah. And on the nutrition side, maybe you say, okay, I'm tired of, I get in the evening, I get, watching something, I get bored or whatever, and I start snacking on stuff. Well, if you remove all the crap from your cupboard, now if you want those cookies, you've got to actually put your shoes back on, get back in your car and drive to the grocery store to buy the cookies. Most people are not going to do that. So you added friction to doing something you didn't want to do. So as the manager of yourself, you start doing these self-management things, making it easier and easier to do the things you want to do and harder to do the things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
What that helps you do then at the social level is you begin to develop habits and values. Okay. And eventually you would begin to identify as that healthy, fit person. The easiest example I can give you is a runner. Okay. So imagine a person decides they're going to go for 30-minute walks after work. They start doing the walks. They're consistent. They're getting faster. They're getting easier. They decide, okay, I'm going to add a jog to it. So that's a jog to the fence post, jog to the stop sign. They're adding a little bit of jogs to their walk. And then over time, they realize they're jogging more than they're walking. And they get the idea that they'll do a 5K. So they sign up for the 5K, maybe with some friends or people they now know, and they go and they do the 5K and they have a great time. They've got the t-shirt. It's exciting. They enjoyed themselves so much. They're ready to sign up for another one. And now they're buying the shorts and the shoes and the socks and the things, and they identify as a runner. So when the alarm goes off in the morning and a runner gets up, what do? They go for their run. They don't think about it. They don't fret about it. They don't re-hit the alarm. It's just what they do. In fact, a runner, if they injure themselves and can't run, they're frustrated by not being able to do the thing they are. So their values and habits have completely aligned around being a runner. So they run. So if you have feet in all four of those quadrants, you've got a coach to hold you accountable. You've got a group, a social network around you of people who help hold you accountable. You are self-managing to make it easier and easier to do the things. Then you build the habits and the values. You now identify as that individual. So if you identify as a person who eats healthy food, you're not out eating crap. If most of the people you hang around with are eating healthy food, then
going back to the runner example, you just described me. You literally described me. I used to run till about 2 years ago, and now I have a lot of arthritis and a torn meniscus, and I had to give up running, which is definitely, like you said, I identified as a runner. And I would do exactly the things you said. I have a group that I met at 5 every 3 times, twice a week for long runs and short runs. We would get together. I eventually became a running coach as well. So I coached in Montgomery County in Maryland here, the local running group. But it was exactly, we had a plan, we had a coach, we had accountability, we had our buddies, and we got the t-shirts and the bling after each race, which is like,
and you cheered each other on, coming across the finish line, and you felt connected, and you identified as that. And so you see, when you're in that place, you are always motivated. It's unlimited.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Now, when we're talking about for our listeners, for someone who's struggling to make health a priority, how do they empower themselves, achieve their goals? And we touched a little bit on everything, align with their values, and prioritize what matters truly to their journey. And again, how do they ignite their spark, like you ignited your spark with your daughter? And it's like, ooh, CrossFit, man, I need to do the Tough Mudder. What can they do to help with steps that they can do?
So when I look at the word commitment, I break that down into two things. Okay. The first one is a why. Why does this matter? Okay. And with me, initially, I thought it was just, I want to have a particular type of lifestyle with my daughter. When I got a little bit deeper into that concept, what I actually came out with was I wanted self-respect and I wanted her respect. Okay. And I think you can see how emotionally deep that is when you're talking about wanting to be respected by the people you love the most.
Yeah.
And being respected by yourself. Okay. So for me, that was my why, my real why was I wanted that respect, being and who I was needed to be. Now, the vision, which is the second piece. So the why and the vision was initially, yes, I want to do the things that my daughter's doing with her in her way, not my way. And so that was the initial push. I've gotten past that, and now there's other things, but I want to be a participant in my grandchildren's lives, not a spectator. I don't want to be sitting in a rocking chair when they're playing on the floor. I want to be crawling on the floor with them. When they're doing whatever crazy things teenagers and young adults are doing, which I'll be close to 80, I want to be ready to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I expect for myself, my vision is that I'm the crazy 80-year-old out there doing whatever they're doing as part like a Tough Mudder thing then. Okay. So I'm a participant in their lives. Okay. And then the other side of it is I want to be independent. I want to be capable. And I have a wife, she's close to my age. I want to be there for her. So where I live right now on this island, we do have an ambulance, but it's not going to get here. So it's better for me to just know that I can pick her up, put her in the car, and get her to the emergency room if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
So those, I'm not going to call them obligations. I'm just going to say who I am requires me to be in the condition that I need to be in to be the caretaker, not the caregetter.
Getter, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to take care of my wife. I want to be able to take care of my kids. I want to be able to take care of my grandkids. I want to be able to take care of my mom. And, you know, like I said, my grandfather lived until he was in his mid-90s, and it was not a pleasant way to go. My father is 80 years old right now.
Okay.
And he's fine. He's in better shape than my grandfather was. He doesn't play golf, doesn't love golf like that, but he's okay. And so it's just that whole thing of I want to live my life on my terms. I know I'm going to age, but I'm going to age on my terms. I'm going to live and be independent as long as I possibly can. And yes, when I'm 105, I will be able to wipe my own butt.
I love it. You can do it. I give you the toilet paper because I'm planning on that too, man. One of my clients that I see in person, I have a brick and mortar studio too, aside from Pursue Your Spark here in Maryland. And my oldest client is currently 98. And his wife always says he's lost his brain. He has like zero short-term memory. And she's 94 and she drives him to the studio. I'm always like, crossing my fingers, biting my nails, and I'm checking, making sure that they get there. And, they're coming with their walking sticks and their canes and all of this, but they're getting their buttski in and being as strong as independent, as you said earlier, as long as possible. It's such an inspiration.
It is. My oldest client right now is 78. But she's doing all she can to keep herself in as good a shape as she possibly can. She's got a lot of things that are not in her favor. She's vision impaired. And so that makes it a little bit more difficult, which is why she wants a coach, is that someone that can talk her through and get her moving in her way, not my way, not someone else's way, but her way. And again, that's a mindset thing. When I see someone who's struggling like that, or I know I would be, for them to still be pushing to remain as strong and healthy as they can.
Yeah.
I don't have an excuse.
And I also think, Allan, I also think in that sense that I want to find a person that I think I am, that's kind and compassionate towards that age group, with, like you said, the not hearing, the not seeing, the not moving as well as anybody younger their age, is that we find somebody that's as compassionate and as kind towards us and guides us, as we can't help ourselves at some points anymore. We need that extra little help from somebody else. Yeah.
And again, that's another reason to look at coaches, is that, I kept breaking myself every time I tried to train, initially when I was trying to train, because I had no idea what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. But unfortunately, most of the people who were, they were either on one camp or the other. It's like, okay, chair yoga, stretching, that's all you should be doing, and then the other camp is, no, let's go do a box gym workout with a CrossFit and swinging kettlebells and toes to bar and burpees and then go for a run. That I could do it once I got myself in shape, but I wasn't in shape to do that in the first place.
To begin with, right?
So, Allan, understanding where you are and then from there, and a good coach can help you get the most out of what you are capable of doing today and get you further. I had a client one time, and when she hired me, she says, look, I don't like to exercise. She said, in fact, I get winded walking to my car. I said, okay, so start where she is, right? And I said, okay, tomorrow when you walk to your car, I want you to do one lap around the car. I said, I know that'll feel silly, but just do one lap around the car. She did it. And the first day she said, that was really hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, 2 or 3 days in, she's like, okay, it's getting easier. I'm like, okay, tomorrow, 2 laps. Within a few weeks, she could go out in the neighborhood and walk around for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can always do something. It's one of the wonderful, wonderful things. We have this beautiful gift. It's a human body. It's a machine we live in that is capable of healing itself. It's capable of improving. And all we have to do is give it what it needs to heal and improve. And that's movement, proper nutrition, sleep, and stress management. If we're doing those things, if we're doing those things for our body, it will heal, it will get better. And it's just this amazing, amazing gift that I think a lot of people forget what they have.
Yeah. Allan, what are you most excited about right now in your life?
Well, I'm helping so many people with my own coaching. And I love that every single day when I'm able to help someone, hold them accountable. They're doing the things they've always wanted to do or needed to do and knew they should be doing, but then didn't. And then the accountability gets them going. And I see them building that self-efficacy. That always makes me feel good. Now, another thing that I've done recently, I started coaching coaches. So I'm with this group that's a mentorship. and we coach other coaches. And so what that's allowed me to do is to work with dozens and dozens of other coaches that are basically doing the same thing. So instead of touching however many people I can touch in my lifetime, I'm now mentoring coaches as an exponential of what
That's
my
exciting.
capacity would be. Yes. So, it sounds weird coaching coaches, but by coaching them and helping them build a solid practice, and now they're helping people lose weight, get fit, regardless of what their audience is, what they're working with is. I mean, I work with 40 plus. Some of my other clients do as well. The coaches do, but some of them are across the board. They do this, but they're all helping people get more healthy and fit. And I just love it.
I love it. Allan, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all about commitment and feeling good and doing a better job of committing to our own health.
Thank you.
His chat with Coach Allan was packed with so many gold nuggets. We discussed what it means to shift from wanting change to actually committing to it, finding deeper motivation, putting yourself first, and finally sticking with those goals. If you're feeling stuck in your routine, the Pursue Your Spark Blueprint is here to help you step into a more energized and resilient you. This 8-week online course designed especially for women in midlife combines intermittent fasting, Pilates, and strength training in ways that truly support your lifestyle. You learn practical strategies and create lasting changes. No quick fixes here, just real progress. If you're ready to invest in feeling stronger and more vibrant and more in tune with yourself, tap the link in the show notes to see if the journey is right for you. In the next episode, we'll dive into something just as powerful, letting go of those shoulds in fitness. I'll share a story from a client who was feeling not good enough in her journey, and we'll explore how to release self-judgment and focus on actual progress. If you've ever thought you should be further along in your fitness routine, the next episode is for you.